just breaking the rules now. So I welcome you to the Flat Earth Therapy channel. I give you first introduction of myself. I'll started as an airplane technician, worked 2-3 years as such, so it didn't really last very long. And then I became a sport therapist. So basically, I worked on patient and think, because this is in my blood, to approach flat Earth on a different level. In short, again, I'll basically study the last 5-6 months this flat Earth concept. It didn't resonate in the beginning at all, but the more actually I looked into it, because my mind is curious, the more question I started to have, and things really didn't start to add up. So basically I don't really want to talk on a technical level because I forgot most of it, but I've got a general idea. But it's much easier to debunk the globe than basically come up with a new concept, a new version. That's one statement I would make. But what I'm trying to do now is basically to structure our thought pattern and approach a little bit. So basically, we would have to define first what we know and what we know we don't know. And there are things we don't know, which we will never know. And probably the fourth version is what we believe. So we shouldn't really mix knowing with believing, because that's where, that's basically where we are vulnerable to outside forces. But basically we can approach, as I've taken some notes, we can approach this in quite a few different ways. So one way would be technical, but that requires, access to technical knowledge plus probably even equipment to some extent. Other way is common sense and logic, and how many times we have been deceived by our system who controls us and enslaves us, which definitely exists, believe me. I've traveled the world, I've seen it. Another way is probably visually and through perspective, which is in my case not an easy way to do, and probably for many others as well, but I know some people can do it, and it is very interesting. Then we can try to understand it historically, and that definitely would involve all different religion and scripts and belief system. Another way is with our senses, but that's probably not so easy because we have been taken out of our senses. That was the first thing they basically realized, and they did to us the moment we were born, plus maybe 2-3 years, and after that we've been hijacked, sadly. And then there's some other ways to do it which I could do. So I've got an inner voice and I've got intuition, and according to me they are not the same. So with an inner voice, an inner voice talks and it can be wrong every now and then, but generally not too much. Where an intuition is not wrong, and it's not verbalized. You just know what to be, what to do, and what to say, which I'm actually doing now. Is this video? So I didn't sync it up at all. I just know I have to do it. One way, another way we have to study society. We have to study where we come from and where we're at and where we're going. And that's basically being the therapist. So if I have a patient, I try to see and feel where they come from, where they're at, and their potential, where they can go. And in regard to this flat Earth concept and our own planet here, plane, that's quite tricky because we don't even know where we come from. We just were born here once and now we're here, and we can wander around, but we don't really know where we're going. So that's not a very easy way to approach this. So we have to kind of rely on those other senses, like those technical, logical senses, or visually, historically, culturally, probably through art as well, which is another approach, or intuition and inner voice. So if something just tells you, this sounds right or this sounds wrong, so you probably can rely on it if it has been proven in the past, when your inner voice said, something, doesn't add up, or this adds up, and then you do it. A very important way basically to realize what's going on is to know human beings, how we have been basically conditioned or brainwashed into one belief system to the next. So we thought we are free, but we are not. We just were brought into a new paradigm. And that's probably very, very important to realize. But I would state that we are now on this time, on this planet, and where we never had such access to information and awareness, and are able to free ourselves. So that's an important part to know. And then it's basically to study other human beings and their behavior and the way we act and react to each other. Because what I could find out so far, and I take it personally very, very seriously, there are actually 3 types of people. And as a therapist, I do not distinguish on those 3 types. But in my personal life I do, and I advise everybody to do the same, because we will exhaust ourselves. So basically there are the 3 types, and the one we belong, we call ourselves symbiotic people. So we work on creation. We can create new thoughts, new products, new actions, and it is exciting and it is fascinating and constructive. And that's basically the people you want to team up and the people you want to, discuss those all our thoughts and questions and reflections. And that's 1/3 of our planet, sadly now. So we have another third, the parasitic, and then we have the other third, the predatory. So basically the predatory ones, they're very, very clever. And you have to learn to really distinguish those three people, otherwise you're going to be exhausted and they're going to be invigorated because they actually feed on us. Without us they cannot exist. So that applies to parasitic and predatory people. Predator is actually considered as a psychopath, where the parasitic behaves like a psychopath, and in theory you have to treat them the same way. So from that on we probably can move on and go to the next chapter, and we'll try to make more videos with different topics, different people, and it's more the way we actually react to this new perception of living on a plane, in a protected environment, which I reckon. So there must be something, if it's a dome I don't know, but it's definitely something which keeps the air in, and nothing is spinning, and it just feels really, really different to me. And I know it was took me months to basically, I could intellectually understand it, but my body didn't at all. And that kind of happened probably the last 3-4 weeks, where came out of nothing, and it felt a bit like I was spinning on a carousel. Then it came off. My head was still spinning and my body has some movements as well, but once this has settled, it was like such a calm way of thinking and experience life and nature and my own body, because actually in reality I didn't spin, but I had a feeling of spinning, at least in my head I was spinning. So this definitely would be very interesting to find out how other people, if they had a similar experience and or going to have a similar experience one day, and maybe even help them to lead to this with this analogy of a spinning carousel, which makes us very easy in our head. So we have to come off, and maybe as an introduction, just for a while, maybe for an hour, so somebody can imagine to come off and to have a break and to feel safe. So I let you with those last thoughts and wish you all the best for the rest of the day.